'Cause I'm yours to keep if you want to.
We're good.
Cool.
Thank you for coming in to do this.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, did that just... Nope. Okay, cool. So let's start with, what is your full name?
My full name?
Mm-hmm.
My full name is Kayla Ann Jackson.
Are you named after anybody?
No.
Okay.
No.
Where were you born?
Mechanicsburg. Well, actually, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up there?
Kind of shitty.
Yeah?
Yeah, I guess so.
How come?
I don't know. It's really conservative there.
Okay.
So, yeah, just conservative, hella religious. Like, everyone there is Catholic. So, yeah, that just sucked. And I went to Catholic school, so there was a lot of rebellion from me. But, yeah.
What were you into when you were little?
I think music, like a little bit. Like,
Yeah?
I always, couple funny stories there. But, yeah, my mom definitely has, like, recordings of me, like, dancing to Britney Spears.
Nice.
The Hit Me Baby One More Time, like, dance move. And then she also had this, like, live performance of Madonna.
Cool.
That I would, like, it was, like, on a CD and, like, a DVD. And I would just go crazy for it. So, yeah, I was always kind of into that. But I was always kind of, like, a tomboy, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weather's, like, probably pretty intense and seasonal, I'm assuming, right? So
Definitely.
Were you outside at all, like, any kind of sports, anything like that when you were younger, or?
I did a bunch of sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were your favorites?
What were my favorites? Wait, should I take my jacket off? I'm gonna take my jacket off. Okay. My favorites, I think it was tennis.
Okay.
I like tennis. And I snowboarded too.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Snowboarding is sick.
Yeah, I grew up in Utah, so that's literally like my favorite thing.
Okay, nice.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Okay. Older brother, younger, what do you got?
2 older brothers and 1 younger brother.
Are you close with everybody?
Sort of, kind of.
Okay.
We're like, I feel like we're all very much like independent. So we have like a little group chat, but yeah, I would say we're good.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about your parents?
Yeah. What about them?
2 parents? What do they do for a living?
Yeah. Oh God. My dad, he's a business guy.
Cool.
And my mom doesn't do anything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you guys close?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
And so, how long were you living in Pennsylvania?
I moved right after I turned. Well, actually, I moved from like Mechanicsburg to Philly like right after I turned 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you doing when you moved to Philly?
I went to Temple University.
Cool.
Yeah.
What'd you study?
What did I study? I studied marketing.
Okay.
For a little bit, and
Nice.
then that was like 2 years, and then switched to finance. And then my last semester before I dropped out was media studies and production.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why'd you drop out?
I just hated it. I just like, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I was miserable. Like, every semester I would start off like, okay, I'm gonna like change it around. Like, I really wanted to. But I think I also like really wanted to do music. Like, that was always in the back of my mind. And that's sort of what it came down to, because my last semester, I really messed up. But I was also just like working on my first EP ever.
Cool.
And so I was like constantly like driving out of Philly. I remember there was this one week I went to Atlanta for like, what is it, A3C festival. It was like a conference or festival type thing. And after that, I was like gone for like a week. And I was like, after that, it was like, I don't think this is going to work anymore. So, yeah.
What was your first job?
My first job, it was a marketing internship.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I was really into like, I really thought I was going to be like a business person.
Okay.
But, so I was fully in it. I did like a marketing internship, then a finance internship. And then my next job after that, after I dropped out, was like this super old diner, like bussing tables. It was crazy.
Still in Philly?
No, this was like I moved out of Philly to Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Specifically, I was living in Columbia, Pennsylvania. And it was just like me, my boyfriend at the time, and like I worked at this little diner. It was so old that it was a diner and a pharmacy.
Whoa.
Like,
okay.
That's like a super old thing. I guess
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like 150 years old.
That's cool.
Yeah. And yeah, it was just like right around the corner. It was just like super simple life, I guess.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, that was cool.
And what was after that?
And then I moved to LA.
Oh, no way. When did you move to
Yeah,
LA?
2018.
Okay. So you were here for a couple years before COVID. How was it? How was it when you first moved west?
It was good.
Yeah.
I really liked it. It was like the first year I was out here that was like super lonely.
Yeah.
Like that was, but it was super cool at the same time. Like my boyfriend who I moved out here with, like we ended up breaking up pretty early into it. So I sort of like unintentionally for the first time was living alone by myself, or living by myself for the first time.
Right.
And yeah, that was sort of crazy just because I hadn't really planned on that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But I was like,
Yep.
okay, yeah, I guess I'm doing this. So and I think it was crazy because it was lonely in a sense where like it wasn't like a romantic sort of lonely. It was just like I wish I had a friend that I could just like text
Yeah.
like, hey, like I'm coming over or something like that.
For sure.
I didn't have that for like a really long time.
And just like someone to explore a city with, like when you first move, it's just like, especially a
Mm-hmm.
place like LA, it's just
Yeah.
like you want to get out and adventure.
There were like people that I hung out with, but I felt like it took me a while to, I felt like I kept on getting disappointed by people, like, and you know what I mean? That's just, it is what it is. Sometimes people aren't like compatible, even like when it comes to friendships.
Yeah.
But, so I was like, like I could go out and party and experience like the city with these people, but it's like just someone that I could chill with. Like I remember my first birthday I was here, like I just was alone like the whole time because I didn't know anybody. And it's
Sure.
just like, I don't know, shitty birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a few of those. I know how
Yeah.
it feels.
Yeah.
What made you decide to move to LA?
Music.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Okay. So at
definitely
that
why.
point, you mentioned you were working on an EP. Was that like the first endeavor into music?
So not necessarily. I felt like I had been putting stuff out on SoundCloud for a little bit.
Okay.
So the EP that I was working on that I was ditching school for, that was like just a SoundCloud EP. But
Okay.
like I was like starting to take it like really seriously. And I always think it's hilarious looking back. Like when I decided to move to LA, I was working on this one project, my first album called Blue. I put that out in 2018. But when I decided to move to LA, I had like 3 songs from this album. And I was like, oh yeah, like I got it. Like I'm moving, like should be pretty easy. And I just think that's funny because I've made like so many songs since
Yeah.
then. Like I didn't even know, but I felt like it's more of like I just knew it was the right thing to do.
Sure.
But yeah, so I had Blue, like I think it was pretty much ready to go. It might have just been getting like mixed and mastered, and then I released it in LA. Like I made it in Pennsylvania, released it while I was in LA,
Sweet.
and that actually got like a pretty good response. I was like actually like, and it felt extremely organic too. And this is 2018.
Nice.
And
What was the process of releasing it?
it was like super I don't know, just independent. Like
Yeah. You find a distribution company? Do you make like physical CDs or anything? Like what was the
you know what,
thought process for it?
Funny. I had my manager at the time, Jake Stanley. He's also from Mechanicsburg, but he helped me put like all that together. And so honestly, I feel like for that project, I really took a back seat on like any of that. Like still to this day, I'm like, oh, like did that like go through his label? I don't know, or something like that. But I don't really know.
It
But
just
it was,
did well.
yeah, it was just,
It was received well.
yeah. And it wasn't like, it was definitely very just like unofficial, like distribution wise.
Sure.
But yeah.
Hey, that's cool. I mean, honestly, like there's nothing better than when you like first put out music and you get like any kind of response. Any kind of like positive response is ideal. I mean, any response is something, but
Yeah.
when you have friends or people, it's like when you start to first have strangers just be like, oh man, this
Yeah.
is great. It's like, at least for me, it's like such a motivating, encouraging support. Like you don't expect it, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh shit, cool, other people like what I'm doing.
Yeah, that I think that's been like the coolest part over the years. Like, not the coolest part, but just like I just feel like it always happens like at the right time. Like I almost think of it as like God acting in a way, like especially when it's strangers who I just see that one time and never talk to again. It's like he sent them or something.
Sure.
And this one time it was crazy. I was getting off a plane with my family, and we were landing in New York or something. And this is like 2000, probably 19, and this kid comes up to us. We'd been on this flight the entire time, but after we got off the flight, this kid comes up to us, my family, and he's like, "Oh my God, are you Frex? Like, I follow you on SoundCloud." And I was like, "What?" Like, I was like, "Oh, what a flex in front of my family." Like, they were all like, "Oh my God, honey, are you famous?" So,
hell yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah,
that was like,
awesome.
I felt like it helped give my dad a little more hope.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, it's rough. I mean, music's a rough path, so anytime you get those little lights of like encouragement, especially like when it's with your family, it's like,
especially when it's with your family.
So going even back to like the beginning of making music for you, what age were you, and what was it like when you were starting? Like, how'd you make the decision? Were you recording? Were you just writing stuff at home? Start learning how to play an instrument? Like, what was that whole beginning all about?
So I feel like throughout my life, I sort of always dabbled. Like, I remember even when I was really little, we had this like electric keyboard, and I remember there would be there were buttons on it, so it had like preset little instrumentals, and I would just repeatedly like press them.
Casio or something like that.
Yeah.
Have those loops.
Yeah. And and one specifically, it was one song by the Bee Gees. I forget what it was, but yeah, I would just listen to that over and over again. And I remember that like sometime in recent like years, and I was like, that's like pretty funny. I used to do that. But then yeah, what was it that really, my brother was in a band.
Cool.
So I saw him make music. I think he made like maybe 3 songs like with his band. But this is when I feel like recording equipment became more accessible.
Sure.
And I didn't even know like what the process of making a song was. Like, I couldn't even comprehend how that happened. I was in like 7th grade. But I would listen to him like record these demos, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, how do you do this? He ended up giving me his old laptop.
Cool.
And it had like just guitar, like it wasn't even loops. It was just like a stream of consciousness of guitar. And I would just like record with no microphone. It was literally just the MacBook microphone, like record myself on that in GarageBand. And then I also remember like this one time, it's probably like 7th grade, like math class, like I would write too. And I remember like writing my first song, like in my head I had the melody, but I just wrote down the lyrics, and I like passed the note to my friend and was like, do you think this could be like a song? Like, does it sound like it could be? It's not like but just based on the lyrics, like, could this fly? And yeah, I think she said yeah, but who knows?
Cool.
But yeah.
Nice.
And then I started playing guitar for a little bit. I think I picked up acoustic guitar. I was playing like Jack Johnson. Like, I think one of the first songs I learned is definitely Sweater Weather by The Neighborhood.
Nice.
But I could only play like the campfire chords because I couldn't do a bar chord.
Okay.
But I didn't know anybody. Oh my God.
Yeah. Trying to learn how to play bar chords. Miserable
Yeah.
experience.
I literally quit because of it. Like I didn't know anyone else who played guitar.
Yeah.
So I just figured that acoustic would be easier. No one told me this, that
it's not.
Electric is so much easier, but you just think like, oh, it's the amp, like electric.
Yeah.
There's going to be more, acoustic's more simple.
Yeah.
It's so much harder to play.
Yeah.
So then I couldn't play a bar chord, and then Lord came out, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is a beat, but like it's still like alternative.
Yeah.
So this is cool.
Yeah.
Started making beats, put down the guitar for a long time. Started making beats, then I was on SoundCloud.
What was the process like for starting to make beats?
That was funny. Like, it always would piss me off because like I never, I realize this now as I've become more proficient with these things, but I never set the BPM. So whenever I would slice something, it wouldn't be like on the grid.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Early learning curve.
So I was like,
making music.
fuck, like, how do I make this loop? Like, I could never figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just like GarageBand had some of those loops, like maybe like a couple chords or like and then I think I would put like just like a kick or something. Like I made a couple beats. It wasn't like I was like super into it, because shortly after I started doing that, I was on SoundCloud and I was like, these beats are way better than what the fuck I'm doing. So I just stopped. I literally just like stopped making beats. And then shortly after, I met Godchild, who I work with like all the time.
Nice.
So he was actually on that first EP. He had like 2 songs on there, and we hadn't even met in person yet. He just sent them to me.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
just through SoundCloud, like initial messages on like, hey, I think your music's tight.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just like hit me up, and I was like, oh, wow, this is sick.
Were you still using like GarageBand and the Mac mic at that point in time?
I guess at this point it would have been like my senior year of high school, or like my freshman year of college, like maybe that summer, I got like a bunch of equipment.
Nice.
Like my parents were like, you can either have like a graduation party or you can get some of this equipment. And I was like, definitely the equipment. So I got like,
nice choice.
Yeah. I know. Imagine how lame that party would have been. I would have been like still in business school. But yeah, I got like a blue Spark microphone, like the orange one.
Yeah.
And then like speakers, headphones, like the fucking Scarlett interface, which I still have.
Nice.
And I think that's when I got Logic, because I was like, GarageBand isn't really cutting it anymore.
Sure.
So yeah. Then I started recording myself, and that was a funny period of time, just like showing my friends my music that was like so poorly mixed and being like, what do you think? And they're like, could you turn the volume up on your voice? Or like, I can't really understand what you're saying. Like, just drowned in reverb.
Yeah. All those early.
It was brutal, especially because like my friends at the time, like, no shade to them, but they were not like super into creative stuff. So like now looking, I was very like upset at the time. I was like sensitive. Like I would send my songs in the group chat, and no one would say anything, and then like someone else would just send something else, and just like no.
Keep moving the chat on, like, oh, I'm just gonna slide right by that.
I would be devastated. I'd be like, no one likes my music. No one thinks it's good. Whatever. But there would be some people like along the way who'd be like, "You're sick," and I'm like, "Thanks."
Okay,
We like
cool.
okay. But it would always be like kind of like strangers. I think that's like the thing sometimes people say, is that like strangers are more supportive than like the people closest to you.
Sure.
I have experienced that like at points in my life. Right now, I don't think that applies, thankfully.
I'm with you.
But yeah, I did experience like a lot of that. So that was funny. But I mean, you learn through the criticism. Like I would probably listen to the music I made back then and be like, yeah, my voice probably could have been a little more clear.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, that's the whole thing. Like you're getting started and like you're taking the time to like actually learn a new skill and like develop something. And I mean, sounds like you pretty much just sent it by yourself, and it was just like the learning process of doing and getting better time and time again.
Yeah. And I think the cool part was like, I was doing this. I wasn't trying to like necessarily pursue like a career in music. Like I was, but like still thought I was going to be in business until I dropped out. Like, yeah. So, you know what I mean? I'm putting these songs up on SoundCloud, taking time, like spending money to get this done. And I don't know. I just did it because I loved it. Like, and that's how I feel about music. Like, I know that even if it wasn't a career path, like I still love making music. So
yeah. What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
So much. So I guess like my mom listened to like Madonna, a lot of Madonna, Earth, Wind and Fire, Bee Gees, but then also like Norah Jones, what was the other one? Santana, So all of those sort of things. Then my
Sure.
dad was like, my dad isn't like a huge music person, but he listened to like the ones that he did listen to for sure was like Hall & Oates, James Taylor, and like for sure Jimmy Buffett. He loves Jimmy Buffett. And then, so I was the third child, right?
Yeah.
So I really was able to get away with a lot. So I had like no supervision when it came to like what I was looking up, like listening to, like I was allowed to listen to anything. And also I felt like my mom was like so like wanted to be like hip. Like she was always playing like VH1 and MTV, and she would like love to listen to it. Like I would be in the back of her car, meaning I'm not old enough to like be in the front seat yet.
Yeah.
Listening to like Drop It Like It's Hot with Snoop Dogg, and we would do this like together.
Yeah.
Like so.
That's awesome.
And then my little brother, I mean, not my little brother. What am I saying? He's gonna be mad at me if he sees this. My older brother used to make mix CDs.
Okay.
And my mom would like totally encourage it. She'd be like, "Can you make me one?" So she would just play that, like it'd be like Kid Cudi or like there's this one song's like "Let's Get Fucked Up." Like my mom would listen almost like the more explicit, like the more she's like, "Yeah, this is super cool." Like, so
Hey, that's awesome that she was into it though.
yeah, and I think like yeah, I totally agree. Like I always, whenever I heard people who were like, "My parents don't let me listen to this," I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like
My parents were pretty much the same way, and they took a group of us to see Jay and Silent Bob for like my 12th birthday or something like that. And
oh my god.
We saw like Jay and Silent Bob and the Fast and the Furious like back to back, and then we took some of my friends back home. And, like I never saw one of them again after that.
What?
Yeah, his
What?
mom was so pissed off that we saw that movie
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
at that age. So I kind of grew up the same way. My parents are super cool, and like we're always like willing to like share those kind of things with me, and then also like talk about it. So I had a little bit of an understanding of like what was actually happening, which was cool to get context. Like I remember listening to some like the early rap stuff. Like I was listening to Big Timers, and like on one of the main songs, he's like, I think it was like talking about like going to that Escalade to go on an escapade, and my parents were like, "Do you know what he's talking about?" And I was like, "Fuck no." I was like 11 or something like that.
And they would explain it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I had
Yeah.
no context.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually awesome.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's like only the tip of the iceberg of like what I've listened to.
Sure.
It's like it's just so much. Like I had all that just based on my parents, and then like my first 3 CDs were Avril Lavigne, Kelly Clarkson, and Ashley Simpson. Those were like the girls at the time.
Got the girl. Got it.
Yeah, it must have been like 2003.
Okay. They
And
were
then
like all just dominating.
dominating.
Yeah.
Dominating. So it was them, and then probably as I got a little older, more like the VH1 like or like the Kid Cudis, or like, you know what I mean, that era. Kanye West. My mom loved Kanye.
Nice.
Yeah. And but then I then like 7th grade I started listening to like screamo music, like Asking Alexandria, or like I loved Escape the Fate, like and then there's Dance Gavin Dance, and then I went down like a whole thing of alternative music, like Death Cab for Cutie,
Nice.
Phoenix, like The Used, what else, just like that lane of stuff.
Sure.
But all the while listening to like I was listening to like a ton of alternative music in high school, but then I was listening to like Frank Ocean, The Weeknd, Drake, Jhené Aiko, stuff like that. And then SoundCloud became a thing, and it's like it's a lot more like R&B stuff on there. That's when Party Next Door like was really around.
Sure.
And yeah, that's when I feel like I started. I felt like I also listened to like a bunch of early 2000s R&B too, like Usher, The Dream, Neo. I loved stuff.
Yeah.
Neo, stuff like that. But yeah, so it's just like it's a whole bunch of stuff. But then I felt like since my parents didn't really grow up on like R&B, and I really only got exposed to like the early 2000s stuff, I started like kind of being like, okay, who was this person inspired by? And then kind of backtracking from there.
Sure.
So I listened to like, that's when I would say like 2016 is when I really started like deep diving into R&B.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then that was like right around the time it sounded like you started making your own music.
I made my own I mean, like, yeah, that's when I started like seriously making my own music. Because I was like, I think I put my first song out probably in like 2013.
Okay.
But just like here and there, it was just like for fun because I like to do it. And but yeah, I felt like the more I made music, the more I wanted to sort of consciously dive into it. And then I think I realized like there's so much I don't know still about this genre, but people are telling me I sound like this and telling me I sound like this. Like, let me like see what's going on. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So you make an album, and what's that feeling like? Like, is it something that when you're in the process of making the album, is it like, oh, I have this idea, it's going to be this many songs, or is it just like, oh, I just managed to make this many songs and I can put this together? Like, was there a theme? What was like the kind of initial album inspiration, and like, how did it feel completing it?
Yeah, so interesting because Blue, like, that, it was so long ago and it's so different compared to now.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think there are 8 songs on that album, and I think we made like 10 for it. Like, we were just like, yeah, let's just put these songs that we made out. Like, we were just making songs for the project, and like everyone just like, besides from 2, like just fit on there.
Nice.
And the reason I called it Blue was sort of like a play on the fact that some of the songs sound happy or like upbeat, but are actually sad, like if you look at the lyrics. But yeah, and like I said, that was just like, it was such an independent thing. Like, I was so not far along at all. It was so early still.
Sure.
That yeah, I was just honestly, I was just lucky that like people were listening at all. I just remember like when I got my first like 100,000 streams, I was like, like I never saw that on SoundCloud, so it was just like crazy.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
And then what was like the idea? What was like the follow up at that point? Like, you put that album out. Did you do any shows? Were you thinking like, oh, I gotta get out and perform, or was it just like, I'm gonna keep creating? I'm assuming like new people are coming into your life also, because it's just like catching traction.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't like seriously catching traction. Like, I had a couple meetings, but like it was so early then still that like I think people knew that I still had like some developing to do. But sorry, what was the question?
Like, basically, I guess it's a series of questions, but after the album came out, did you do any kind of like shows or anything? Any performing?
Oh my God, yeah. I did a couple shows like when I first was in LA, and that's the thing too. Like, I released the album like 6 months after I moved to LA.
Okay.
So it was like still pretty fresh. So I was still like very much just figuring it out, and I did some shows, but honestly, the shows that I did when I first got to LA were like the worst shows of my life. Like it would be like one show was like at this bar. It was literally a bar. I don't know who was there for like the actual performance. It was like 10 artists. I think I was the only like person who wasn't doing like trap music. So I was like it was just getting to the point where I was so sick of these lineups. Like, people just throw me on, like not really knowing. And then also like there was no stage, there was no spotlight. So I was literally right next to the DJ, and the mic cord is like this long. So I literally just had to stay still like that, and so did everyone else. That was a bad one. Well, my first show ever too, like I had no one but the people throwing it show up. So like that was like back in Harrisburg. But I've had shows out here, like one of those first shows I did, like no one was really there. There were like maybe like 5 people, and then like my friends. I was like basically just like having a karaoke party with my friends.
Yeah. It's good to have those.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I guess it's better than like not having anyone there, but me, I'm like, oh, how embarrassing. Like, you guys are the only ones here. But yeah, so I stopped doing shows for a while. I think stopped doing shows for a while. Didn't do another one until like maybe 2019, and then didn't do one again until like 2 months ago. But yeah.
How was well? Actually, we'll get there. So, what were you doing like after that album release comes out? You're living in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Back to making music.
Yeah, that was also like kind of a tough thing to figure out because my process just developed so much over the years. Like when I first started making music, I was so nervous that like I had to be like drinking. That's like very beginning. Like I was so nervous to make anything.
Sure.
Especially around another person. And then it started being, I get sent these beats, I write to them when I'm by myself, I bring it to the studio. And that's what I was doing when I made Blue. And then I got to LA, my engineer isn't out here. Like I kind of had to figure that out. So that took some time. Because not every producer I was working with like could record me in a way that I felt suited it.
Sure.
But so that took some time. I ended up finding an engineer. So like Najib and I would get together. He would like make the beat. And this is sort of an evolution of the process because he used to just send them to me. And if anything, I would just like ask for adjustments. But then we started linking consistently. And yeah, we would build a beat together and then I would take it and go record it like somewhere else. But now I think like post COVID, like the studio that I would go like just go to track something, like it got shut down. And so I just had to kind of learn like how to record on the spot and like sort of like write on the spot too. Cause like going to the studio would sort of give me time to like think about it. Like now when I'm in a session, I'll just like kind of do it on the spot.
Sure.
Cause yeah, it just feels better that way. But yeah, so it was definitely, that was one of the harder things too. It was like being lonely and then also just like finding your footing, like finding an engineer, like finding your people, like Connor Barkhouse, who mixes my music now. I didn't find him until like 2019. So it took a little bit.
Sure. And were you, so when you, what did you end up creating next?
So, see, that's the thing. I felt like after Blue, I just didn't really know what to do. I think I was making a bunch of music with Najib because like we I don't know if we touched on this, but Najib and I knew each other in Philly, and then both coincidentally ended up moving to Los Angeles.
Great.
And once we both got like a little more settled in, we were like, let's just do this like once a week or so, and like just try and be consistent and see what happens. So we did that. So in the meantime, like we were making a bunch of music, and I've gone through like so many different phases. Like I literally had a disco phase that no one will ever hear. Like me and Jeep did that. Like we were, I don't know. We've had so much time to just make a bunch of different shit, and I really have only put out like a tiny fraction of that. Sure. But it's cool because I think like by doing all of that, by trying like everything, I know like what I want to do and what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So
it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like the biggest part of the process is exploring enough and having enough time to investigate all the different options to then whittle it down to like, oh, actually, it's really like these few things that I really love to do. And then when you really dial that in, it's like, oh shit, now I feel like I'm building something that is actually like stacking up and making progress and gets a little bit more exciting. Yeah. So 2020 basically kicks off and goes into COVID. And like, what is your experience now? You're living in LA and shit just goes haywire.
Yeah, that sucked. It sucks so bad. Like, yeah, that was a tough time because I was just like, damn, like I felt like 2019, like I was like at the precipice of something like, I remember I had a meeting with like Capital, like I was releasing singles. I was like, things are going well. And then that happened and I was like, oh geez, like I was, I think I was like a couple sessions away from like finishing like what, like an EP I never ended up putting out. But I was like a couple sessions away from finishing that and then shit just shut down.
Yeah.
Like shit, like this throws off everything.
Yeah.
So like my engineer Connor, he literally went back to Texas. I was like, okay, like see ya. Like she was really, it was crazy. So, but I think also the sentiment at the time was just like, what can you do?
Yeah. 100%.
I think 2021 honestly might have been a tougher year. 2020 was like, you know, everything's fucked, but like we're all in it together.
Yeah.
2021 was like pretending like everything was back to normal when shit was still like, we're still kind of feeling the ripple effect of COVID.
Yeah.
And what it slowed down, like what it took away. So that was like a tough thing to reckon with or reconcile with.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there was literally a point, like, honestly, it must have been like, it could have even been 2022, like maybe even like 8 or 9 months ago, where I was literally telling my friends like, oh yeah, like, I just don't really know if I'm going to do this anymore. Like, I was so just bummed out about a lot of stuff and was looking at like how much a therapy, like how much the average salary for a therapist, like in California and then in Pennsylvania. Like I was just like, I just don't know. Like, and then I don't know. I figured it out.
Nice.
So far.
So coming out of like that time period, what's like the last 8 or 9 months like been like for you?
Yeah. So I felt like at the time where I was like really sad about everything, I was just sad because I don't know, I guess like I had this project that I'm working on currently and am actually going to put out, but I didn't know, like I didn't want to put it out and like have it totally get looked over. I was like, I knew I needed something to happen, like have a moment and then put it out.
Sure.
And also, like, I've been in LA for, like, 5 years. So I think, like, a couple years go by and, you know, you're partying or, like, you're around all these, like, cool people. And, like, yeah, you've done cool things. But, like, what's really happening?
Yeah.
That's what it was getting to for me. I was like, okay, like. And also, like, through COVID, another thing you witness is, like, people stop doing it. Like, even people that you love, even people that are, like, talented. Some people just stopped, you know, creating stuff and they pivoted.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but it's just like, you know, you sort of have to look yourself in the mirror and you're like, am I still going to do this? Is this like the life for me? And I was also stressed too, because I was like, I dropped out of college and like it's too late for me to go back.
Yeah.
And like I have no viable life skills. Like, what am I going to do? So yeah, so that was kind of a crazy thing. I think I had also started managing myself like around this time, so I was still figuring it out. Like I was with a management company and that was cool. I felt like I learned a lot, like probably like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So basically it's like I had managers, like I ended up parting with them. I had this management company, like I'm still where I'm at, like fuck, like what is it gonna take, like what do I have to do? And it's like I felt like hitting that point like really drove me to like, honestly, it's so funny because I just felt like I need to get my TikTok up.
Yeah.
Like I always just had this instinctual feeling like that would be like my place, like that's where it would happen for me.
Sure.
And so I did that, and then yeah, so that's been like extremely helpful.
What was the process like? What about it specifically? Was it just like, oh, I'm gonna start making music? Like I'm one of those people who just refuse to do another social network thing, even though I know it's like TikTok's destiny for me at this point.
Yeah.
Because like literally everybody is just like, man, these podcast clips would be great on there. Oh man, your instrumental music would be great on like, and I'm just like, fuck. And
well, that's how I felt about it too.
yeah. And so what was that? What was it like? Participating in like the trends of TikTok, or is it just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna just have fun and create and see what happens?
Definitely just have fun and create. Like I felt like I think it's so funny, probably like in 2019 or 2020, like whatever website TikTok was before that, I think it was like Musically, like this one girl, and she was so early too, like she was like, you should try this website, like da da da. And I'm like, sounds stupid. Like that'll never be anything. Like, okay. And then so obviously that didn't happen. And so then, you see it more, it's like the dancing stuff, you're like, ugh, like this is corny.
Yeah.
And then also as an artist already devotes time to social media. Yeah. You're like, have that same mindset of, ugh, yeah, just one more platform I have to fucking update. And that's how I felt too. And then I also felt like TikTok artists were like corny, like that's sort of the connotation. Like, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be like, hey guys, I'm Frex. My single comes out this Friday. Go stream. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. And like, I guess I do that to a certain extent, but like, I don't know. There was sort of just this idea, or like a tripod set up with like the beauty lamp and like just a blank background, and like, you ever go on people's TikToks and they're like that? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I just didn't want that. And I just thought it was corny. But then I took a look at TikTok and I don't know. I feel like found my niche. I was like, okay, like some of this stuff is funny. And I saw how well it was working for other artists. And I was like, if I can I think I had like one stupid, like it was a joke. Like my first TikTok to ever like get over 1,000 likes was like just a joke. And I didn't even have like that many followers at the time. I was like, oh, like that's pretty cool. And it didn't even have to be like for music, even though I wanted it to be. Sure. And then I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna like keep pretty much TikTok. I love TikTok because you can just like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. It's like a very forgiving app. So like, I don't know, just trying a bunch of different things. I even posted like some music before, like Oxford Circus, and like it didn't really do anything. But I just kept on posting like funny videos. And at first too, like I thought, like I think I got like 30,000 views on a video. And I was like, this is when it first started happening. And I was like, oh, well, like it's TikTok, so like it doesn't really count. But then I was like, wait. No, these are very real views. Just because it's not like Instagram doesn't mean it doesn't count. Yeah. And there are more people on TikTok than there are Instagram. That's when my mind started changing. Yeah. Because I would do photo shoots for Instagram. I'd pay photographers, like just stress about how I looked. And then like I post this stupid video that took like 20 seconds to make. And I'm getting way more interaction than I would on Instagram. Like, okay, like priority shifted. Yeah. And that's what happened. I stopped treating Instagram like the one for discovery and started treating TikTok like that. And like, I don't want to be an online comedian my whole career, but I know that it is very beneficial to do silly stuff online right now. For sure. So you had your latest song come out, what, a few weeks ago? A little bit longer than that? It was a few months ago? June 3rd it came out. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's been out for a little bit. Yeah. What was that process like for you? That was super cool. That was sweet. I like didn't expect it at all, but I kind of went to London like on a whim. Okay. And I knew my friends out there. Shout out to the guys at Cloud X, David and Santino. They set up this studio session for me at Cloud X Studios, and the producer was Ken Sampson. Never met the guy. This is my only session the whole time I'm in London for like a week or so. And I'm like, okay, like I hope I do well. And because when you're meeting with a new producer, like you always kind of want to do well. Yeah. You just never know. And so then I found out that he took a train like 2 hours from Nottingham to get to this session in Brixton. And I was like, 2-hour train? God, I gotta do well now. Yeah. And then, so he started fiddling with the guitar and he was like, not really hearing anything. And I was like, okay, like, you mind if I try? And so I put down those chords and I think he pitched them up like a little bit, but yeah. And then he made the beat. I went straight to work on the writing and it just like came together like really quickly. Nice. Like that hook too. That was me trying to figure out what the melody was going to be. Like I don't know if you're familiar with the song.
No.
Okay, so it's like, say you'll miss me too, say you'll miss me too, just say you'll miss me too, say you'll miss me too. And it's really this next part. Say you'll miss me too, say you'll miss me too, say you'll miss me too. That was like me on the microphone, like trying to figure out how it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I was just going to repeat the same thing.
Sure.
But then we were like,
yo, this is it.
let's just use this.
Yeah.
Like this works. So that was cool.
It's funny. That was how our first session went.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like the coolest thing recently. I think that song like specifically has just taught me like sometimes simple is best. And also like I recorded that in dry. So it made me sing a little better.
Sure.
And I hadn't been doing that really. I hadn't made a song before that for like 3 months. So I felt like I was really able to just like lay it all on the line. And it felt really good. And yeah, it shifted things. It was like, I followed my intuition, went to London when I felt like things were stagnant.
Sure.
For me. I trusted my instincts. I just was like, yeah, let me go. 2, I had been practicing guitar. So it's like all those hours I've been putting in, like by myself, practicing guitar, paid off in this moment. And then another thing, I think it just like showed me that, yeah, simplicity. I really like simplicity. I like real instruments. Kind of like inspired me to go more in that direction.
Sure.
Like going forward, making music.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're in London. You make this song,
Mm-hmm.
and is it something that at that point, like, you go back to Connor and same team, or is it now new people? And like, what's
Mm-hmm.
the process of you leave that session and you get that song released?
Yeah. So I think the super cool thing about this song too is that like we took that session from how it was and like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to add anything. Like I just sent it to Connor. I think I might have told him to like take like a few things out.
Sure.
But that was it. And he mixed it, mastered it. And then so we had previewed it or I had previewed it on TikTok
Okay.
before it came out. And I would say I was a little smart about it because I had a viral video while I was in London. Silly joke. It wasn't like anything related to music at all. But I think it got like 2 million views.
Oh shit.
And I had a moment like this happen before, and I think some of my friends sort of got on me for being like, you should have capitalized like while you had traction, like
Sure.
da-da-da. And I'd done that a few times before. I'm just like, I don't know. So that happened. I'm still in London. I post the hook to this song, and then I post the first verse to this song. Again, I'm throwing shit at the wall, just trying to see like what's gonna make people engage with it. And so I posted the first couple of videos, didn't do anything, and then all of a sudden like it just started going up. I think because I had traffic coming to my page from this other one that just went viral,
Mm-hmm.
and B, I think the TikTok algorithm like pushes stuff out to people like in your location. Like whenever I'm in London, I'm on like UK TikTok. It's so funny.
You notice a difference?
Yeah, it's really funny. And I noticed that the first time I went there, I was like, this is so weird. Why? Like everything's like British all of a sudden. And so I think I kind of like kept that in mind while I was there. So the first line is obviously my favorite place in London is your bedroom. And yeah, all of a sudden, like, it just sort of went up. I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, cool. I think it was literally, like, the day I flew back to the States that it, like, started going up. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Going the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I was like,
I gotta go
damn, I
back.
wish I could stay there for longer. Yeah. But yeah, and then that was that. Then we put out the song. I think we made people wait, like, a month and a half.
Sure.
But yeah.
How did you put that song out?
So I partnered with Boom.
Okay.
It's like a distribution company.
Was that something that came off of like, sorry to interrupt you, was that something that came off of like the TikTok people getting a response, or was that something that you proactively were like, oh, I like this company, or like what was that initial relationship start?
It was them reaching out.
Okay.
I had like a bunch of people reach out to me like when that happened.
Cool.
Like before it was even out.
Okay.
Which was like pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, I just like what they were talking about. So, and I
Cool.
like the people there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think probably one of the last things I'll ask you about, which I don't know if you still keep up with tennis or snowboarding, but do you have any hobbies that you're keeping up with or into besides making music? Because I know music's kind of all consuming.
It is all consuming for sure. I always think that's funny when people ask me that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Pilates.
Nice.
I also like to like, it's not necessarily making music, but I've been super into like practicing singing,
Okay.
like just making my voice better.
Sure.
But yeah, other than that, not really, no.
Yeah. Just full bore
No
music.
hobbies. Yeah.
Hey, it's an important time, you know. I was just curious, but it's an important time, you know, to be creating. And it sounds like you're nearly finished with an album. It's also like a time where you're just kind of like laser focused on getting this thing
For sure.
done and
For sure.
like building off, I'm sure, the momentum you have going now and getting that out. And it's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's very important to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like focused.
Yeah,
So yeah.
for sure. Well, Killer, thank you for coming to do this.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited for our session now.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to wind it down.
Cool. Woo. That was fun.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah. I wonder like